So I'm starting to really love this program, Substance Sampler, because it allows you to do stuff quite easily. It's really it's like an evolution of what we used to do back in the day when we had to use like, we had to basically convert images into text, materials we could use in the games. But it's with the AI algorithms pretty good. It's actually not bad at all. And it sort of somehow, well, so far it's sort of figured out what I wanted. So I've gone to Brick. I've got the Stewart skewed, and all I'm going to do is just drag this into the viewport, and then it's going to ask me a question. And the question is, what do you want to do with it? I'm going to be doing image to material, which is the first setting, and I'm changing this to 2048 because I think that's the size I put up there, just so it's smaller. It actually, I had like a 6K texture in here the other day, and it's so slow. I don't know why the program's so slow, but once you get under like, if you get under 4K, it works pretty fast. And all you have to do is hit import, and it's going to think and it's going to analyze and see it actually goes that fast. See, there you go. Like if this was a 6K, it'd be sitting there for minutes, just like circling. You'd be waiting for it. But like you can see here that the tiling, and I think I have my tiling set. You can set this, to 1, 0, whatever. I think you could overdrive it too to like 3. Yeah, you have to dial it in if you want to go past 2. But this tiling in the 3D viewport allows you to see like how well it's actually working. But if we look at this, like we may want to transfer into our 2D. So I'm going to just go up to this little box up here. You can see you can just hit 2 on your keyboard and it'll go into the 2D. So I can just hit 2 and then we're in the 2D. And like I said, I did this on purpose just to illustrate some of the tools that you might need to use if you're going to tile a texture. This texture has a pattern, so it becomes a lot more difficult to tile versus just something that's kind of a random surface like a concrete. Concrete's easy to tile, right? But this has a very distinct pattern. And we've gone over what these details are. These are for the normal maps. You can see all your maps down here, right? So you can even see the normal map actually looks pretty good, right? Like that's like pretty nice. It actually understands that these things are basically dropping in, even though technically if it was taking it just from value, it would be popping out, right? Because the crease or the grout is white. So the grout being white means it's going to pop out if you're going from like a 0 to 1 where black is 0 and white 1 is white. It would normally pop out if you just drop this into like Substance Designer. It doesn't have that AI function. You'd have to like invert it and do the video I do for Photoshop. To do this in Photoshop, I show how to isolate all of the grout and then invert it for your height map and for your normal map. However, since the AI driven part of this is just working, I don't have to do that. There's a couple of things though that I need to do initially. One of the things you can put on here is oh goodness gracious, it just slipped my mind. Equalizer, that's the name of it. Equalizer, okay, or equalize. There is a setting for equalize within the actual material. But if you guys noticed, I don't know, like it might be hard to see, but if I turn this off, it did actually, here, let me just delete it because I don't know, this thing is weird. Delete. Or is it frozen? It's frozen. Hold on a second. It's doing its thinking. There we go. I don't know why I had to rethink that. So you can actually, there is like delighting intensity. So this is part of the material, but as you can see, it's at 1. Let me see if I can overdrive it. It does let you overdrive it. So you might not have to put that in. But the equalize, I think it works even better because when I put it on, it actually makes it even better. So equalize. And you can see it actually balances out a little bit more. That's basically that problem that I was having with my height maps in Photoshop where they're not matching up when you tile them. This is sort of taking that out of the equation for you. It's making it easier. That's why I'm saying I'm loving this program because it's actually makes my life a lot easier. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is, because it's warped, you want to do a transform on it. Now in Photoshop, you can free transform. You just hit Control T. You could right click over where your free transform window is, and you could go into perspective and skew it. But once you skew it, it's baked in. You don't have your original layer. This is procedural. So I can do the same thing. I could go ahead and put in like PER for perspective, and then I get the perspective transform. And I can just click on that. And once that drops, you'll see you get some handles here. And what I want to do is I'm just going to take this handle and I'm going to get it close. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just kind of eyeball like that you have. Basically, I'm lining up this grout to the edge, the top edge. I'm just trying to like see that grout and that top edge look like they're basically parallel to each other. And I'm going to do the same thing down here. And I'm just going to pull this down like so. Now I could also pull it in, because what I'm going to do is I'm also going to try to make sure that these vertical grouts are also almost in alignment with each other. So you get the bottom and the top in alignment, and then you also can pull it in and try to straighten out the this right here. And so get it as close as you can by eyeballing it. Probably the best way to do it is just kind of take a glance and just eyeball like what the distance is here, and then try to make that like eyeball it as the same distance here. Okay. And you could see on the other side, it's actually sort of fixed the other side. Like the other side wasn't as bad because of the angle. It skewed the one side versus the other side. So now we have this thing. So it's sort of square the way that we want it, sort of. We got more work to do. All right. The next work we're going to do is we're going to put a paint warp on here. So we have a paint warp. And what this is going to do is actually, this is like almost like an additional straightening out of the edges of these grout things, and it allows you to come in here and set it. I'm actually going to set it to horizontal first. I don't know why, I just like doing the horizontal first. You need to set it to either horizontal or vertical. So you're either working with a vertical tile, or you're working with, or basically like a vertical alignment, or you're working with a horizontal alignment. So I'm going to set it to horizontal. I'm going to set it to straighten. If you don't set it to straighten, it doesn't really change anything. It doesn't work the same. So you got to turn the straighten on. And if you look down here in advanced, it says brush start. Okay. This means that when I show you the next function, which is I'm going to show you how to draw like a brush line across. And you need to start from the left to the right. I don't know why it has to be in that order. You can change it if you prefer to go from right to left, or middle, keep skew. I wouldn't do that. You could go from right to left, but I'm going to just leave it at left to right. Okay. And so what you do is you go into your grout. Oh, I'm sorry. We got to turn on the brush first. So the paint warp has a brush here. And all you have to do is just click on the brush, and then the brush becomes active. You're going to get a little interface over here. If you like, you can change the size of the brush. I think this is probably fine. I might actually make it even smaller so it fits right within the grout. Yeah, that seems to be good. So we'll kind of go edge to edge in the grout in this little interface. So once I've got that, I can just, let me go to the top one. I want to move this. There we go. I'm going to just single click right in the middle of the grout. Then I'm going to hold shift, and you'll see a line connects. I'm not even touching anything else. I'm just holding shift, and you get this line. You can move your mouse around, and you're going to move so you're right in the middle of the grout on the other side, like right by close to the edge. And then you just click, left click down, and what it's going to do is it's going to try to apply a straightening between that so that those are parallel between, or I should say in alignment for both sides, not parallel. Different thing. Okay, so now I've got that, and then what I'm going to do is do the same thing at the bottom. I'm just aiding this thing to try to square it away. But with the bottom one, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it inside where you see this little, there's like a line going through there. I'm going to do it on the inside of that. So I'm going to do it at, like right here inside of that line. Click once, hold shift, and then click through. And then it's doing the same function down there. And if you like, you could try, I don't think you need to do it too many times. It's probably straight now, but you could try doing it in the middle if you wanted. It probably won't change much. Yeah, I didn't see any change. So now we got that done. Okay, so you can turn the brush off. We're actually going to make another paint warp layer. So we're just going to go right back up to layers. And this time we'll do the vertical. So you don't have to change it, except for you do have to turn on the straighten, and then you have to turn the brush on. And it's the same process that we did before, but this time we're going to go ahead and go up here, hold shift, come down to here, let go, and you'll see it moves it a little bit. That looks weird. I have had this thing do some weird stuff. I'm going to start off on this side. I'm going to do it on this side first. And then come down, shift. Okay, it moved it over a little bit. I'm going to do one in the middle. Hopefully it'll like kind of pin the middle in. There, you can see it like just tiny bit. It shifts it over a little bit. And then, actually, I'm going to erase. I had that one sitting right there. I'm going to erase. I'm going to go back to my brush. Single click, hold shift, and click down there. Okay, it is working. It's just it looks funky right now, but we haven't done the tiling function, which is the next step. So the next step is you just go back to add a layer and you just type in tiling. Hit enter. Okay. Here's where we get the tricky stuff. All right. Not hard. Just it does take a little finagling before it works right. So what I'm going to do is the tiling has, like you have this show seam, don't show seam. This is actually really interesting. I like that it does this. So you can basically see where the seam is. I don't need to see it right now. You have the edge in here, like detect edges. You can turn that off and it actually looks like it's tiling better now. But I'm actually going to leave it on for right now because I'm going to show you how you blend this stuff. And you have thresholds. So this is like how far it's going to travel to either side. You can play with it. You can play with this. And this is actually pretty important because you kind of want them to join together from side to side. But like you kind of just want to get it just right where you're not getting any of that gray. And so I'm just working it back. And then I'm going to actually blur that a little bit. So if I don't blur it, we get a hard transition. It's easier to see if you go into the 3D viewport. Well, look at this. I mean, I just went to the 3D viewport. We're not actually done yet, but look at how good it looks already. It looks pretty good. Wow. So if you find the seam, you'll see right here, like this is where the seam's at. That's one of the spots where it's not blended yet. So I could go ahead and I'm going to just Alt right click back a little bit so I can see this better. Then I can blur this and I can mess with the threshold a little bit. I need to make it a little bit. There we go. And then I need to blur it so it starts blending that brick into that other brick. And I'm going to go back. I do most of the work in 2D. But then, you want to check it in 3D. Can you guys see any problems with this texture right now? Use your discerning eye and look and see if you see any issues. Yes.
Oh wait, never mind. I only see on my version.
At the top, the bricks go up.
Bingo. Thank you, Sarah. The bricks they're matching brick for brick, right? Right. So there's a reason why they stack bricks staggered like that, right? Because if you don't stack it like that, you get all the weight pressing down on whatever the bottom brick is. But once you stagger them, structurally it holds better and it's also balanced so that these bricks can actually stay there and they're not going to get all weighted down and you're not going to have the seams start to crack and everything's going to fall apart. Okay. That's what they purposely stagger bricks like that. So the way you get rid of that is you actually just have to pull on this and pull it up until it starts joining. And you want to get it so it's basically like you kind of want the same amount on both sides. So if you're looking at the top and bottom, you want those to look about the same size. And we could actually do the same thing here if this is off too. Let me see. This looks pretty good. The side to side looks pretty decent. So I think that might be okay. I'm going to go back to my 3D. See what I've got. Okay, so we do have a problem. I'm seeing it right here. I lost it. See right here? There should definitely be more grout there. It almost looks like those two are joined. And so that has to do with the side-to-side blending. Okay, so we do want to adjust that a little bit. I'll leave my viewport right here so I can come and check it later. Some of them are fine, but just this one particular one is not good. So you always got to check your work. All right, so what I'm going to do is that's this top one right here. So maybe I can spread it a little bit. I'm going to go in. Or maybe go out a little bit. Let's see if we can get it to go out. Okay, it's a little bit better if I go there, but we're getting some fat grout here. I mean, I'm not totally against that because the grout's not always perfect. But this might be somewhere where you actually jump back into your perspective transform and adjusting that. Like I said, it's procedural, so it's going to send everything up the chain. So I might just go ahead and pull this out a little bit and see, or pull it in and see. There we go. So me pulling it in a little bit and adjusting it here. Now, as long as I'm not causing a bunch of other problems, right?
Those like two ground lines super close together.
Yes, but I'm going to come back up here, and I'm going to go start pulling this back again, like this.
That's because I noticed it on mine.
So I'm going to just pull that like that, and then the only problem I have now is that it looks like the top is completely misaligned. So I'm going to see if I can adjust the top a little bit. Just pull it like that. And let's go ahead and look at it again. Always check your work. Don't just assume it's right. But that looks like it took care of it. So I went back down in the chain, used the power of proceduralism because it's sending all that information back up and it's still active, it's still live, and you can adjust stuff. And now we've got ourselves a nice brick. And you didn't have to do my Photoshop tutorial. It's a good idea to know some Photoshop though. But honestly, there's so many Photoshop tutorials out there that it's been around. Photoshop's been around since like the early 90s. So like you can go out and find like pretty much any. The only thing is you have to know what to search for. That's the hard thing. It's like you might be trying to do something in Photoshop and you don't know exactly what it's called. But now we got that. Let's look at this. That looks pretty darn good, doesn't it? Just from a single picture. What do you think? I know, it looks great. Let's make it really high. Roar. Okay, of course it's not going to be that high. In fact, if you think the height scale is too much, you can go in and adjust that in the original material because it probably should be more like this. But I sort of like how it looks. I'll be honest, I kind of dig it when I make it a little bit higher. Yeah. I mean, come on, guys. That's pretty slick, pretty fast. Right. If my picture was taken correct, it would have been way less work. I actually purposely took the picture skewed so that I could show off some of the other tools. Because you might find something online that you're like, oh, I want that, and it's a nice big picture, but it's not perfect, and you want to adjust it a little bit. Okay. So you might be able to do something like that. Okay. So, now that I've got that, let's go ahead and export it. Export as. I'm going to save it. Texture, not carpet. Not carpet, but we'll call this Brick Stewart. Brick Stewart And we will come to the right folder. Texture. I have it in walls, brick. Here it is. Select. And then material settings. I'm going to look at the material settings. Okay, this is good. See how it's got the metallic roughness? I wonder if they have... I don't need emissive. Honestly, I'm probably not even going to use displacement. It's probably just going to be this. But you can put the metallic and the roughness in one and the metal in one. The metal is completely black, so it doesn't really have, you know, a bunch of information in it. I mean, it's very low. It's low information. If it's all just like one color, you don't have a lot of information in the in that channel. It's actually small. And the texture should be smaller. So I just did that. Did an export. We can go and look at it. Just double check that it got out there. Yep, there it is. Base color. Bada bing, bada boom. High quality.
All these are checked, right?
What are they? What do you have checked?
Base color, displacement,
I didn't export the displacement or the I just did the occlusion and the normal and the base color. And you need the roughness, the occlusion. Honestly, you could do the height, but then you got to do the subdivisions and all that stuff. I don't know if it's necessary. And this is gonna look funky because we're gonna stick this into channels, right? So it looks weird colors, but we're gonna use we actually pull out single channels and put that into the roughness and the materials, which we will be getting to soon.